When you ask somebody what their favorite game controller is, you might get the Super Nintendo controller, the Sega Genesis, PlayStation, GameCube, who knows. Me personally, my favorite might be the Xbox Duke. I know that's weird, and it's the butt end of a lot of jokes and pretty unpopular. I think it's pretty misunderstood and underappreciated, and for whatever reason, I just felt compelled to just talk about the Duke and explain why I think you guys maybe just aren't getting it. But anyway, I'm actually getting a foot bath right now, so just give me 1 second to get out of this, and then we'll get on with the video. Alright, let's get going. This was the original controller at launch of the Xbox in 2001, although you might be more familiar with this one, the Controller S. It's a long story, but for reasons, us in North America got this behemoth. But in Japan, however, they ended up getting a different design. Still larger than average, but much more acceptable, and that design quickly became the new default going forward worldwide. As a kid, I was curious about the Duke controller, but my console came with the Controller S. At first glance, it was different than the other smaller pads, and by today's standards, it lacks many of the features or layouts that we expect. It's different, yes. It's absolutely supersized. But does that make it bad? Not at all. It's common to pick on the Duke, but let me tell you, it is nowhere as bad as you probably think it is. Looking at it, it features 2 analog sticks, a D-pad, analog triggers, and 6 face buttons. Nearly every other controller after this one features 4 buttons in the diamond layout, as well as shoulder buttons with triggers. That is the industry standard now, but back then it wasn't. The 2 joysticks work well. They're not the same shape, so while each one is different, they feel fine and they work well. I actually like both the joysticks and how they feel. The different shapes don't bother me, as long as they feel good, and thankfully these do. Let's tackle the grips first. The common joke is you need massive hands to hold the thing, which I just don't think is true. I used this back in 7th, maybe 8th grade. Comfort is a personal thing, but for me, I find the grips to be very comfortable. If we take a look at the Dreamcast or the GameCube controller, the grips were very thin. I prefer to have a bigger grip, and the Duke absolutely has that. Now, there's nothing wrong with the GameCube controller. In fact, I think it's also great. I just prefer to have bigger or deeper grips. We may just have to agree to disagree on this. It's just personal preference, to each their own. But okay, let's talk about the face buttons. Yes, it's a different layout. The buttons are not circular. They're not in a diamond layout. This does not mean they're bad though. In fact, I would go so far to say I prefer a different button layout. Having all the buttons right here makes it very easy to do more complex combos, and honestly, it's just less movement for your thumb. Having the 4 main buttons right by your thumb makes it less tiring after a long session. You are not doing big motions to switch from X to B or A to Y or whatever. You can roll your thumb in a circle to hit all the buttons quickly. Some people have told me pushing too hard on the face button hurts. I don't think so, but perhaps I just don't push down with so much force. The other thing no one seems to be able to handle is the black and white buttons. Today we're used to having only 4 face buttons, so the C6 is a little weird, and I get that, but here's the thing. I think the placement of the black and white buttons makes sense. Look at this. All the buttons are in my thumb's range of motion. It all just works. I don't think it's a ridiculous stretch or anything like that. In fact, let's take a look at the Controller S. Yeah, now that is awkward. Those buttons are super small. They're sunken in and very much out of the way. Same with the start and back buttons. Who honestly thought this was a good idea? On the Duke, your 4 main buttons are right there, and the other 2 all within the range of movement of your thumb. Now, the start and back buttons are a little bit of a reach as well, but whatever, it's not that big of a deal, I guess. There are no bumpers or shoulder buttons. Every controller nowadays has triggers and extra shoulder buttons, but Duke doesn't. The games that came out on Xbox played just fine without the extra shoulder buttons, even the GTA games. Back then, there was a lot of talk about GTA controls on Xbox, how are they going to make the game work on Xbox? And just fine, honestly. GTA 3 and Vice City use the D-pad to switch weapons, which is what GTA 4 did on PS3 and 360, and mind you, those have the extra buttons. Perhaps we prefer less face buttons and more shoulder buttons. That's fair if you prefer it, but what the Duke offers works perfectly fine as is. It's important to remember, since the controller didn't have those extra buttons, the games were designed with that in mind, especially the Xbox exclusives. If you had an Xbox controller without analog triggers, that would be a problem because it's supposed to have analog triggers. The Duke never had an L1 or an R1 like the DualShock. It's different than what we're used to today, but again, I think it works perfectly fine. The one complaint I do have, however, is the triggers. They work, they do the thing, but my issue is the triggers have resistance, like a lot of resistance. If you're playing Halo or something like that, it's not that big of an issue, but I do notice my fingers get tired a bit if I do a long session of something with Project Gotham Racing 2, Forza, or Burnout 3. Maybe you can just replace a spring or something inside to reduce the resistance, or just deal with it, I guess. Oh, yeah, the D-pad. Let's talk about that also. I will admit, it looks weird as hell, like it's melted or something. It looks like you took a plastic mold of a D-pad and you threw it in the oven. I guess the weird look kind of matches the style of the Xbox. You know, when you boot it up and it looks like a nuclear reactor and this blob that's changing shape and morphing. Maybe that's what Microsoft was trying to do with the design? Okay, never mind. I guess they were just being weird. If I can be honest, the D-pad works just fine. Okay, I am no fighting game expert. I can't comment how it works for serious battles in Dead or Alive 3 or Tao Fang Fist of the Lotus, but it does the trick for my casual fighting game session, and it does side-scrollers well enough. Look, I'll take a good DualShock, Sega Genesis, Nintendo, or even a modern Xbox D-pad any day of the week. The D-pad is not the best. It's not my first choice. It's not even my second choice, but I do think the hate it gets is overblown. We need to also remember this generation had a severe drought in killer must-have 2D games. This was the era of 3D platformers, adventure games, and first-person shooters. The D-pad just wasn't as important as it was for previous or current consoles. It's completely serviceable though. In fact, I think the Duke D-pad is up and away better than the 360 D-pad. And I would say it's better than the GameCube D-pad. Now, the 360 D-pad looks better, sure, but it's mushy. And the GameCube controller just feels kind of mushy and it's small. Is the Duke D-pad as good as the DualShock? No, but does it get the job done? Yes, it does, and it does it just fine. Also, what's with these two slots in the top anyway? Well, that's kind of a byproduct of the old days. It's like the Dreamcast controller or the N64, allowing you to insert a memory card or the Xbox Live communicator, which was this puck you needed in order to use a headset back then. We didn't have wireless headsets that are great like we do now. Back then, your options for a headset was a USB microphone that plugs in front of your console, and now you have 9 feet of cable on the ground, or this method. This is cleaner, and I love that you have a mute button and volume that's fixed in the same spot. The Xbox did have a memory card as well, so you could move your data to a friend's house or move your live account. We're talking about a console that launched in 2001. These features are old and outdated now, but they were incredible back then. There was no cloud storage or online things to bring your data and preferences over. This was the only way we had to move our stuff to a friend's house. I have so many hours put into the Duke. It's my main Xbox controller to this day. I cannot explain the joy I had when Iredescent announced a re-release of the Duke for modern Xbox systems, just to feel the bitter disappointment when it broke. And then my second one broke. Yeah, this is where things get tricky. Both my Iredescent Dukes failed on me. They made a newer version, some anniversary model that features USB-C for $90 goddamn dollars. Are you insane? They sell the Duchess and Xenon modern versions of the S and 360 controller, both for $50 if I'm not mistaken. The Hyperkin Duke is wired, the big Xbox Jewel is now a home button, it has a share button, even has little tiny L1, R1 buttons if you want. The black and white buttons also act as LB and RB. I have a hard time recommending them because in my experience, the two I've had both died on me. If you want to try them out, make sure you get them from a retailer that has a good return policy just in case. But what about Dukes for the original Xbox today? Well, they're out there. You can find them. The problem is reliability. The Duke, the Controller S, or even 360, the controllers tend to wear down pretty bad. The rubber on the joysticks get shredded, the sticks themselves get loose, and the original Xbox controllers are known for having wiring that gets frayed and break down. They didn't quite nail the long-term quality just yet, which could make it a little difficult to find a decent shape official Xbox controller in 2026. They're out there, but you have to go look, and you might have to spend a little bit more than you were hoping. But part of the charm of playing old games on original hardware is the controller. It gives that console its own uniqueness. Today, the price of gaming is getting more and more expensive. Consoles that are now 6 years old have gone up in price, and controllers go up, and games go up, and online services, and now it seems like physical media is going away, and man, it's a lot. A lot of this nonsense has made me go more retro, and honestly, it's been a lot more fun. There's so many games on these consoles that we missed, or perhaps you never had these in the first place. This is a great time to jump in. Maybe it's a mix of me aging and feeling nostalgic. Perhaps it's me not wanting to invest my money into modern gaming, but I cannot express how much enjoyment I've had using my old Xbox as of late, and that's with the Duke. I don't think I could say it's the best controller. The DualSense, modern Xbox, Switch Pro, Steam controllers, they're all great. You can't go wrong with any of them. But I'm nostalgic for the Duke. It's a great controller, my personal favorite to go back to. You really owe it to get yourself an Xbox and a Duke just for old time's sake. Or you could be like me and keep one of these Dukes framed on your wall like a normal person.